Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this one, I wanted to go over this lab or this tutorial from Microsoft documentation, and it's about restricting network access to platform as a service resources with virtual network service endpoints using Azure portal. Now this one is a very important concept, and if you're not completely familiar, you may struggle just a little to get used to it, but it's a great security feature, and no matter whether you're studying for maybe 104 exam, 500, or your expert level exam 300 series, this would be a very good lab to do, and it's going to give you a lot of hands-on knowledge. So we're going to work with the service endpoints. Okay, and this really enable us to limit our network access to some of the Azure services. Okay, and we can restrict internet access to resources, and if we use the service endpoints, they are like you can think about them as an extension of a virtual network uh, inside supported Azure services. Okay, uh, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so six different steps that we're gonna do in this particular lab. First of all, we're gonna create a virtual network with one subnet, and then you're gonna add a subnet, and in that subnet we're gonna enable the service endpoint. Then we'll create an Azure resource and allow network access to it from only a subnet. Okay, then we're going to deploy a virtual machine to each subnet, confirm access to resource from a subnet, and finally confirm access is denied to a resource from a subnet and the internet. So really all you need is access to an Azure account. If you don't have any, just go ahead and sign up for one. You should be able to get a free account if you're doing it for the first time, and you should have almost $200 free for the first month. So let's get started with the lab. So creating the virtual network is pretty easy, and we have at this time have done many times. So let's go back to our Azure. I'm already logged in. I just want to make sure that I do not have the resource group. It says the my resource group. It's still getting deleted, so I think I used this resource group name for the previous labs. This resource group is getting deleted at the moment, but we can use any resource group name. So instead of my resource group, I'm just gonna use something else, just call something else and start the lab. So really, if you look at it here, we are creating a virtual network. We're gonna make sure 10.0.0.0.16 is my address space, which is gonna give us almost how much, many 65,500, close to that number of IPs, and within that virtual network, and we can typically would divide that into subnets, and we're going to create one subnet. I'm going to call it a public subnet, and this is what is going to be subnet address name. When we create, we are not going to create enable service endpoints or the firewall, so that all makes sense. So let's just get started over here. I'm gonna search for a virtual network. Okay, so that is the type of resource that we want to create, and then hit add, and should give you a pane. And this is very simple. Create new, and let's see, my resource group is already there, so just call it resource group. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Name of this virtual network, my virtual network should be fine, so let's call that one, and I'm going to use East US 2 for my deployment today. Okay, then IP address 10.0.0.16 is good. Here this default we're gonna change it to public, and that is, and we're not doing any endpoint or service endpoint selection here, so I'm just gonna say okay. And let's see, public, everything else I don't need to worry about it. So next, if you go to security, DDoS protection standard disable means that you are not enabling the standard, but fire basic is always there and is free, so you don't really have any option to do anything. So here that they're saying DDoS protection basic means that you are really keeping this disabled. Okay, that's pretty much it. And let's say review and create, and let's create our virtual network. So once the virtual network is created, okay, so its deployment is done, we can go to the resource. Okay, now we can go back to the subnets, make sure the public subnet is there. We can click over here again, and from here then we can again come and design our service endpoints. And I think what they're saying, enable the service endpoint. We want to enable the service endpoint for Microsoft storage under services. Okay, so let's come. Oh, actually they're saying add a subnet, and call it private, and on the private one you enable the service endpoint protection. So over here we are not going to do anything to that particular subnet. Okay, so we'll just stick to we'll just create a brand new one. Okay, we're gonna call it a private subnet, and the private subnet here Microsoft.storage is what I'm gonna select. And I don't have any policies or anything like that, but this is what the service is. Microsoft storage is what I have selected. I'm just gonna say okay, and you will see in a second it says successfully added the subnet. If it does not show up here, feel free to go ahead and click on the refresh button right there, and it should show up, and it's right there, 10.0.10/24. so that's my private subnet where I have enabled endpoint protection, or enabled the service endpoint, not the endpoint protection. Let's come back over here, and next thing what we need to do, restrict the network access for a subnet. So by default what happens, all VM in a subnet can communicate with all resources. If you want to limit this communication, and you want to control what can resource and what, you can use something called a network security group, or NSG, and you can associate that to a subnet. So let's go ahead and create a network security group. Okay, so this is what we're going to call the network security group, private. So over here I'm going to search for network security groups, and I'm going to add a new one here, resource group. I'm going to put it to resource group, name is NSG private, East US2 is good, and then next review create, and then just create. So this is going to just create an instance of the network security group. Then we can configure the network security group the way we like, and then we can associate this network security group with network interface or subnet, either way, and we'll be focusing on subnet. Okay, so let's see, what do we need to enable. So outbound security rules, what they're saying, we need to configure some outbound security rules. So let's do that. So over here under setting you see inbound and outbound. So outbound security rule is what we want to configure, so just add an outbound rule, and let's see what we need to configure. So source, select virtual network, source, select virtual network. So the traffic source has to be originating from a virtual network within Azure. Okay, supporting port range, doesn't matter any port. Okay, destination and select service tag. So destination service tag, and here uh, we are gonna use storage. Okay, if it's going to access a storage, and destination port range is any star, any means star, and then protocol is TCP most likely. Now protocol is also any, so any keep fine. Then you are going to allow priority 100, allow storage all. So let's copy that one. Alright, so think what is going on in here, the way we are configuring. So we are saying if in this particular network security group that we are creating, if I see any traffic generating within the virtual network and it's trying to go to a storage account, please allow the traffic. Okay, then you say add, and it should show up in here. And as you see, allow storage all, any port, any protocol source the virtual network to a storage account, we're going to allow this. That's pretty self-explanatory. Now we're going to create another outbound security rule, and that is going to deny communication to the internet. So if you look at it, we have some default rules, and this rule allow VNet outbound any from virtual network, destination virtual network allow, and allow internet outbound any to internet is allowed. So any, if you deploy any virtual machine, connection to the internet is allowed by default. So we want to stop that. We want to create a rule that will stop or make this rule not being effective. So the way you do that, so let's start doing it. Create we are still in outbound rule, source any, source port from, and destination this time you can do service tag and internet. So that's where you're trying to go to. Destination port range, any port, any protocol, you can deny that. Okay, so let's see if they are doing that same thing. Source virtual network, so source you can keep virtual network, so any traffic originated from virtual network going to any source port to the internet, any port number, protocol any, deny 110, deny internet all. So that should take care of denying all traffic that is destined to the internet. Sorry, the priority, you cannot change priority, is 110. Priority has to be a number 110. So this, the name is what I wanted to change. Okay, so I think we got that, and just say add, and you just have to make sure this priority is at a higher level than this particular rule. Okay, because these rules are being evaluated from the top to bottom. As soon as this rule is evaluated, these rules are at the bottom, they will not be evaluated. The traffic will be dropped if it's destined to the internet. All right, so we got those two, and now we're gonna add some inbound security rule. So let's come back to the inbound security rules and then hit add. And in this case, what we're gonna do, we're gonna allow the 3389 port, so to allow the RDP connection to through this network security group. So that one should be pretty easy. Any source port, any destination. Destination is the virtual network. Okay, destination is a virtual network. Destination port is 3389. This one is a TCP protocol. We're gonna allow that, and priority is 120. Name allow RDP all. Copy priority 120 and name allow RDP all. So let's add that one and then take a look at it. So what it's telling, of port 3389 TCP source from any source. If you're trying to go and connect to any of the virtual network, our connection is going to be allowed. That looks nice and correct. Under settings, select subnets and associates. So now what I have this subnet or the network security group, where I can use that to control the traffic, but I still need to associate that to a subnet. So here, if you go click on the subnet and then click on associate, let's see which subnet we want to associate it to. It's the private subnet. Okay, so and then from the virtual network, that's the virtual network, and we should have two different subnets. Public, we are not going to restrict anything, so we want to apply this particular NSC to the private subnet. Okay, and hit OK. So now what is going on? This NSG rules is going to be applied to anything, any VM, anything that you deploy within this private subnet. Those network security rules will be applied. Now the next section of the lab, we're going to restrict network access to a resource. Now what they're saying, the step necessary to restrict network access to resources created through Azure services enabled for service endpoint varies across service. That is true. We're going to look and do perform this restricting network access for a storage account. So what we'll do, we'll create a storage account. Okay, and let's stick, it will be a storage v2 LRS, and same resource group we're going to deploy. Okay, so that's not too bad. So let's just come back, go to your resource group. That's the resource group that we're using. Add, and then we're going to add a storage account. Okay, then create. There are many ways to do it. This is just one way I'm doing it. Okay, so this is my store 554. Okay, I'm gonna use the same region. Standard v2 here, LRS is all I need for my replication. Hot is fine. Okay, networking is where is the most important thing is going to happen. Is going to be public endpoint for silicon networks, or private endpoint. Let's see, how are they asking us to do. Okay, they're not even ask. Oh, it's over here, restrict network access to the subnet under settings. So what they have done this work after deploying this this storage account. So we can do that too. So at the deployment time, I'm not configuring anything. Okay, I will configure that when the deployment is done. So just this time, just call it review and create to just have a basic storage account available to us, and say that it's the deployment has started, and it will be done in like less than 30 seconds or so. It doesn't take very long to deploy a storage account. And as soon as it's done, and we'll go to the storage account overview blade and configure it, make it secure. Okay, again, the deployment, you can review the deployment from here. You can go over here at the notification bar, and also here the deployment is done. Take a look at the status. Just now click over here to go to the deployment. So from here, I think they have asked us to create a storage account to begin with, a container. Let's see, storage account, this we have done. Create a file share. Okay, so not container, but I need to create a file share. So just go to file share and just hit file share to create a file share. Just give any name. Let's see if they're asking us. Okay, it's my file share is gonna be the name. Okay, so my file share, and quota, you just put something like 2 gigs is fine for me. So here we go. So there is your file share that you have created inside your storage account. Close the file service bar is fine. The restrict networks, so go to settings and then firewall and virtual networks. So settings over here, then firewalls and virtual networks. And if you come over here, now you see the similar type of setup that you could have done at the very beginning. Okay, here we're gonna choose selected network most likely, right? And then add existing virtual network is what you need to do. Okay, so this is the add existing virtual network, and here we're gonna add my virtual network, and then subnets, we're gonna use the private subnet in here. That's gonna be the most logical thing to do. Okay, select a subscription, select that network, select private under subnets. Okay, so that all makes sense, and then hit add. So what we are saying, we are going to allow access to this particular storage account, okay, only from this particular subnet. Okay, so that's all you're configuring, and then hit save. Okay, so that's great. So let's come back over here. Note over here what is so access keys, and then we are just gonna copy the access key over here. So let's come back to the access keys, and just key one, just copy the string and just save it for later use. Okay, there we go. And over here now it's time to create some virtual machine. So we have so let's come back and draw something. Okay, so new, discard. So let's think about what we have done so far. Okay, so we created a virtual network first. Think about it. Okay, in this virtual network we have two subnet. Okay, we have created a public subnet and we also created a private subnet. Now the private subnet, we have enabled the endpoint okay, and we have also deployed a storage, okay, a storage account. Okay, that's my storage account that we have deployed, and in the storage account we have configured our firewall setting where we said only allow access. Actually the storage account we have not deployed in this subnet. Storage account is standalone deployment. Okay, so storage account is deployed somewhere here. Okay, but what we said access to the storage account is only possible from the private subnet. Okay, and let's see if I can clean up this. There we go. So again, our virtual network. So now if I try to connect to my storage account, if I have deployed a VM in the public subnet, I won't be able to connect. But if I have a virtual machine that is deployed in the private subnet, that virtual machine will be able to access the storage account, but not this one. And somebody over the internet like I am, if I'm going to try to connect to so this is say my home. Okay, so if I'm here sitting here, if I try to connect to this particular storage account, I will also not have access. Okay, So this access will be denied because I have enabled and restricted using the firewall setting and said only allow access from this particular subnet only. Okay, so this is the good subnet where I have the access. So this guy, anybody who is coming from this subnet can access the storage account. Alright, so let's go back, and what our next goal is to create one virtual machine in the public subnet. And let's see, logically I should be creating two different subnets. Okay, so this looks little different here. Alright, so one is his second virtual machine. Okay, the second virtual machine we're gonna create to the private network, most likely, yeah, on the private network, and they are just using it. Okay, let's just first deploy this two and then we'll come back. Let's see. Okay, so here is the create this. Okay, then here is how you're going to confirm our access to the storage account, and that's a different stage. So let's first deploy the two virtual machines. Okay, so again, we have configured our virtual network, so that is done. Okay, so that's the first thing that we did, created this virtual network. Our subnet creation is done, private subnet creation is done, storage account is done, and we have from the endpoint we have said okay, allow the storage endpoint, and then from the firewall we said okay, allow this private network address to allow access this one. So the next thing we're gonna deploy a VM here. Okay, another VM here. Okay, so that's the next step, and that is what we're gonna do. So come back to your Azure, come to the resource group, and you can stay inside the resource group if you like, and just say add, and we're gonna deploy a couple of Windows Server 2016 in those two networks. So let's just see if they are using any, yeah, just public my VM public is gonna be the name of the first VM. Again, I'm gonna deploy this to EastUS2, no redundancy. I'm gonna use a username and password. Password didn't match. Now it's matching. Okay, inbound rule, I'm gonna allow port 3389 so I can get to the machine. Disk, I don't need to worry about it. Networking is where I'm gonna choose the public network, so this I wanna deploy to the public network. Yes, let's create a public IP. Network security group, I'm just gonna say none. I'm just thinking about it. I have not applied any NNC to that network, so I can go with the basic one, and I'm going to allow this particular port to be able to log into that machine. Then go to the management. I don't think I need to do it. I'm just going to turn it off. The boot diagnostics advanced, I'm not doing anything. Tag, I'm not doing anything, and that should be enough to deploy this particular virtual machine. So let's deploy this one. So this one, in theory, if we try to connect to the storage account from this particular virtual machine, I should not be able to do that. Okay, while this deployment is going on, you don't have to wait, you can start deployment of the other machines. So I'll just go back to that resource group again, hit add, and start deployment of another 2016 virtual machine. And this time I'm gonna call it what? Call it my VM private. My VM private, and we'll go with that name. So the my VM private and the other VM deployment is done by now. I'm gonna go with. It's amazing how quickly you can have a powerful virtual machine up and running for your own use. Okay, let's give this username and password. Hope it matches. Yeah, it does. Okay, again I'm going to allow this particular inbound port to this particular VM. Actually, I don't even need anything here, okay, because I'm going to control the traffic to this particular subnet using my NSC that I have already created. So let's just go to the disk. We're not doing anything. Networking, come back over here. Network security group, I don't need anything. This time we do want it to be deployed in the private subnet, so that looks good. Management, we'll turn off the boot diagnostics, go to advanced tags, review, create, and then we are going to create this particular virtual machine. So as soon as this is done, so let's go back to our diagram again. So now we have two virtual machine. Okay, so this VM, which we are calling my public VM, and this one my private VM, they are now available to us, where we can log in from my machine. So this is my home, so I cannot directly get to the machine, get to the storage account, but I can log into this RDP. Okay, RDP, or I can go to this machine, I can RDP to that one, and once I have a connection from here, I can try to access this storage. This is still going to be denied, but if I try to access this storage account from this machine, it should be allowed. So that is the goal, right? So that's how we are restricting our traffic. So that's what we're going to test in our next steps. Okay, let's go back. So everything looks like is done. So you can go to the resource, and actually I'm just going to go to the resource group and order by type, and make sure I have two virtual machines. They're both there, and they're running, and things looks good. So here, confirm access to storage account. Okay, so what it's doing, it's doing an RDP. It's connecting to which virtual machine? Let's see. So private. So it's saying once both of the deployment done, connect to the VM private, and once you have VM private, map the Azure file share using the PowerShell. Okay, so that's another way to so we created a file share right here within this storage account. I have a file share. Okay, the file share, it uses the SMB protocol, and you can mount the file share in your own machine if you have permission, and it will just show up as another disk, and you can really mount it in multiple different computers if you want to share the disk space with multiple different users. Okay, now if we want try to mount, I should only be able to mount in this particular VM which is deployed in a private subnet, but I won't be able to mount it in the VM that is mounted in the public subnet. So let's prove that. So what you need to do, come back over here, just go to the VM private first. So let's prove that it's actually working. So let's copy that, and I'm just going to use Remina to log in to my virtual network. It's a RDP client, a really nice one, and I use it all the time from Ubuntu. And I'm just gonna hit OK, and it says cannot connect to the RDP server. So let's see what is my problem. 10 75 31 179, and it looks like it's running, so let's copy it one more time and come back over here, put it there, and then hit enter. There we go. Alright, so hit yes, and then provide your username and password, and hit enter, and it should be able to connect to this particular virtual machine. Okay, and it's just logging in. Just give it a second, and once we are there, we'll verify this is the private VM, and that's the one that we want to work on. So network, yeah, I want to make it available within the network discovery, and as soon as this comes up, I'm gonna search for what, PowerShell, and open up the PowerShell window, and the first thing that I'm gonna do, search for host name and make sure that I am inside the private VM that is hosted. So IP config, if you do that, so you know that it's 10.0.1.4, and that should be the private subnet. Okay, that is 10.0.1.0/24, right? So this is the right VM where we want to be. So let's come back over here, and what you need to do, you need to go back to a storage account. So let's go back to the resource group, and here I should be able to find my storage account, right? Where's my storage account? Here's my store, and from this storage account we created a file share. So let's go to file share, let's open it up, and that's so my local machine does not have access, okay, to even get to that view. So what I'll stick to, I'll just take this this code, and we'll run it, and this is gonna allow us to mount the storage account in our virtual machine. So let's we need to modify a few things here though. So access key, storage account key is, I'm gonna have to use the big string in here, so let's put it down there, and argument as your storage account name is, let's see, go back and get the storage account name. It's my file. No, I think I have to use my store 555. That is the storage account name. So where is it? My storage account name is this. Put it down here, and let's see, storage account name again, put it down over here, and that looks pretty good. So let's copy this thing and come down to our Remnia, and let's see if I can paste it. Gee, that didn't work. Let's copy and try it again. There we go. So it ran the first command, run the second command. I'm gonna hit enter, and it says the specified network password is not correct. Okay, so we need to troubleshoot this error just a little, because it says the password is not correct. Okay, so what we need to do here. Let me just think about it. What I'm doing here right now, I'm just going to try to log in to Azure portal from inside this virtual machine, which is the private virtual machine where I should have access to the particular storage account. Okay, and we'll see if I can directly get the code to mount the file share from inside this virtual machine. Okay, that would be easiest. Easy Labs 2021 is what I need. So I'm just waiting here for a reply. Continue to block. Okay, so let's try this again. It's the enhanced IE security or something. That's a lot of time it will block. Actually, hold on. So this one is deployed in our network where we have specifically blocked our connection to the internet, right? Yes, we did. We have blocked our connection to the internet using our NSG, so that is not gonna help us. So let's think about it some more. Alright, what I'm gonna do here, another thing, last time we copied the whole connection string. Instead of the whole connection string, I'm just gonna copy the key and see if that makes a difference, which it might. So let's just get only the key and then copy this thing one more time. Go back to my Remnia and go back to my PowerShell, and let's see if I can paste it. It didn't get pasted, so copy this one more time, paste it, and then voila, success. So now this time I didn't get any message. Okay, so if you are doing the lab, so know how we fix the problem. Okay, since we have restricted the access so much, so you may have trouble getting the right code to run, but this is what you needed to do. What it is, if you now go to your drive, okay, and go to your PC network, I would see that you are gonna see a new drive, temporary storage. There's my network. I'm just trying to see where did this get created. Is it this drive that got created? Temporary drive. Data loss warning readme. So what I want to do, let's go to our we cannot do anything in here because my computer doesn't have any access to that storage. So let's think about it. So over here, the PowerShell returned this command, like this this output. So let's review at least that. Make sure my PowerShell z file system core, so this output is correct. Okay, so the Azure files are successfully mapped to the Z drive. Confirm the VM has no outbound connectivity to internet. That we have already connected. We tried to go to the Azure portal.com and we were not able to do that. So we can also run this from here, and it should not be able to ping it because using the NSG we have restricted connection to the internet. Close the my private VM. Okay, so the only thing that I really wanted to see, I was expecting a Z drive that over here I still see just C. So what I'm gonna do, I am gonna close this, reopen this one more time from the network. I just don't see it in here. Alright, I got this one finally. So I had to do a little bit of troubleshooting to add it properly. So now you can see that this drive, this is now available from this particular machine, and this is again, if I go to PowerShell, open up, and I show you, this is my host name, that's the private machine. So from this machine I have successfully mapped this particular Z drive, and it's now showing up. And if I need to perform any kind of operations in here, create new files, create folders, anything like that, I'm able to do that. Okay. What I did in this one, PowerShell command, although it said that it was working properly, I had some trouble with this, so I used another method to mount it. And if you want to really know what I did, I used another form. Like I used this, like mount the Azure file share with the file explorer. I just followed this method where you can use and just say map a network drive. You just provide the drive that you want, then the folder name, and when you hit connect, you would provide your username as Azure / the name of your storage account, and provide the account key as your password, and hit enter, and it just shows up like that, which just happened to our system. So we have proven that our virtual machine, if we come back over here, this virtual machine, it has no connection to internet. Okay, internet, it does not have any connection. Why? Because I have an NSG. Okay, there is an NSG that we have created previously, right? That NSG rule we are applying to this particular subnet. Okay, so this particular subnet is controlled by NSG, and that NSG blocks internet access. The NSG allows access to this particular storage using the endpoint, and the NSG also allows TCP connection, RDP connection to this particular VM, but connection to internet is not allowed. So that's why we could not go to the internet, could not go to our portal. Now let's go to this particular VM, which is hosted in the public subnet, and where I do not have any NSG, and see what is going on in that one. So let's go back over here, and let's go back to our resource group, and resource group, go to my VM, let's do type virtual machine, public virtual machine, and get the public IP address, come back to our Rimnia client, new window, provide the new IP address, and let's just log in and provide the password. Okay, so I should be able to log into this machine. Now once I'm logged in, what I'll do, I'll try to mount the storage, but since I do not have access, I would expect that it's gonna fail. And I'm gonna show you what I tried from here. So first of all, okay, open up the PowerShell, Okay, now this virtual machine doesn't have any uh, do a host name, and you know that's a public. So now if you do a ping google.com, you should get reply, because this one, our by default our connection to the internet is allowed, so you're getting pings back. So I know that this one has direct connection to the internet. So let's see, hit control C, and then we'll come back over here and we'll first try to run this command and see, and I'm gonna expect that this one should give us error message, because I do not have permission from this network to attach this particular drive. And there we go. So it's saying access is denied and you do not have permission. Okay, invalid operation and could not map network drive. The other way you can check this is following the link, the method that I told you. So what you can do, you can open the file explorer and select map network drive. Okay, so from here you can open up this file explorer. Come on, my dear file explorer, and you can right click on it and then click on map network drive. And in the folder, what you can do, you can provide the full network address like this, copy, okay, and you put it there. So that is the folder path, and you say connect with a different credential, and then you hit finish. It's going to ask the username and password. You can provide the username like Azure, Azure / and then name of your storage account, and then you can provide the access key, which is this, right? I think which is this. So let's paste it and then hit enter, and it says access is denied. Okay, because I do not have access to this account at all, I'm not able to connect to this particular storage. So let's come back to our diagram again. So at this time we have proven that we can log in to this VM, okay, and this particular VM, it has got access. This VM got access to internet, so this can go to internet, okay, but this VNet cannot access the storage account. Alright, so I think that was the main goal for this lab. So confirm the access is denied to the storage account. So we have done that, and at this time we can clean up the resources and be done with the lab. So one final thought on this particular lab. In this lab we have looked at how to use the service endpoint feature of Azure, and how to use it to make our network more secure, and how to restrict access to Azure resource using NSG, and even where we can use the service endpoint to configure when we are configuring our NSG rules. Okay, and this is a very important concept, so please do this lab as many times as you want before you are completely comfortable. It's a lot of things that could be tested in this area, and from a security standpoint it's very very important for you to understand these different type of concepts, like how to configure the NSG, how to configure the outbound rules, inbound rules, how to apply the NSG to a particular subnet, and how to restrict your traffic to make your network very very secure and the way you want. Alright, with that, if you're studying for the exam, good luck. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave your valuable comments so I can make these videos more useful. Have a great day. Thank you.